Well, good morning, everybody. Grace and peace to you. I'm excited that we get a chance to be together, and I'm looking forward to our time together. I am excited about what I want to share with you and what I want to talk with you about. And so I want to give you an opportunity to log on. I chose 8:15 every Monday for my series because I am going to focus my energies and my efforts on doing it after prayer. Our church has prayer every morning at 7 a.m., and I want to do this after prayer. I want to get a chance to open the floodgates of my spiritual, devotional connections with God. And then I want to be able to get on and to share. So I want to give another minute or so for people to join us. I want to spend time going through this. And every Monday, just over the next 6 or 8 weeks or so, maybe a little shorter, maybe a little longer, I want to be able to share my experiences, the things I learned and gained. I want to look at this through the lens of leadership. And so right now it is right at 8:17, another minute or two, and then I will start. If you know people who would be interested in hearing about my experiences at Beulah Heights University, please, by all means, engage them, help them sign on, share this with them, share it with them, share it with people, alumni, my colleagues. I want my former colleagues to join, and I want you to hear. I want you to see it. I'm going to set the stage for it in just a minute, but I want people to get a chance to hear and to understand my narrative, the lens with which I saw my time at Beulah Heights University. I want them to get a chance to be on. So just another 60 seconds or so, and then I'm going to begin. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being on. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being interested. Thank you for being a part of what I'm doing on Mondays with my series. My life has been enriched. I'm excited about the direction I'm going in and the things that I'm doing. Not only am I excited about them, I'm looking forward to doubling down on them. So, friends, let me begin by saying I have been a leader just about all of my life. Even as a kid, I was a leader. And I understand that there are some unique challenges that happen when you commit to leadership. When you commit to leadership, you will not always make the right decision. You will not always be popular. You will not always have space or place where people value or appreciate what you bring to the table, your vision, your lens with which you see what you see. There won't always be an accord with people. When you become a leader, you have to be okay with making tough decisions. And after making those tough decisions, sometimes people will believe you, sometimes they will not believe you. They'll sometimes see your why, sometimes they won't see your why. I get it. For the last 33 years of my life, I've been a senior pastor. I pastored in 33 years 2 churches, one in McDonough and my current one in Marietta. Next year will be 30 years I've been a senior pastor. I have served on boards, I've served in organizations, I've led groups. So my life has spanned the gamut with leadership. As a matter of fact, if you ask me during the course of a year, what specific genre of literature I'm going to be reading, it'll probably be leadership. Second only to the Bible is leadership. And so I get it and I understand it. And so I don't want to start this time of sharing by not admitting that I respect every leader, even the ones I disagree with, because I know the hard work we have to put in order to lead. I respect every leader. I value every leader. I appreciate your leadership, even if I don't agree with your leadership. Here's the second thing I want to say that sets up our time. I am not going to bash Beulah Heights University. Beulah Heights University produced me. My AA and my BA came from Beulah. I would never be able to get a master's or doctorate had I not had Beulah, or certainly that's been the part of my journey. So I'm not here to bash Beulah. I'm not here to bash its leadership. Let me be clear on that. If you're thinking that Bishop Hodges is going to come and he's just going to dismantle and disrespect the leaders, not going to happen. That's not even in my character. If I disagree with you, I respectfully disagree with you. What I want to share with you, why I left Beulah, has to do with three important things. Number one, I want you to hear me say it. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure you get a chance to hear me say it. Years ago, my dad used to say this, and as a kid, we just didn't really understand it. You had to become an adult to understand it, or you had to become wiser to understand it. He said, get it from the horse's mouth. And that's always been my mantra. Get it as a pastor. I'd say, don't worry about anything in the church. If you didn't hear it come across the pulpit and it's not given in direct communication with the senior leader or executive leaders, don't worry about it, right? So I want you to hear from the horse's mouth. Here's the second thing. I wanted to give you an honest appraisal of my experience. Let me say that again. An honest appraisal of my experience. This may be different based on anybody else that may decide to talk about why Dr. Hodges left Beulah. I wanted to give you an honest appraisal of why me, Dr. Brian Keith Hodges, left Beulah. Here's a third and final thing that's been this. I wanted to let you get a chance to either learn a lesson or see the light. Either learn a lesson or see the light. I wanted you to be able to say, after hearing Dr. Hodges, the light came on or I learned a lesson. Let me also say to you, I am not afraid nor am I concerned about any comments that you make, especially if you disagree. I welcome your disagreement. I welcome you asking me in the chat section the hard questions. You never make it in leadership for 33 years as a senior pastor, 20 years as the senior most bishop and primate. You just don't run from hard questions. And if anybody has a hard question you want to ask, drop it in the chat section. I'll do my level best to answer it. If I don't see it, I'm not disregarding it. If I see it, I'm going to answer it or attempt to answer it. But I want you to ask me the hard questions. There's a lady, strong woman of God that I work with on a weekly basis who's a part of our church. Her name is Elder Key Matchintouch. Elder Key Matchintouch is a value to me because she will ask me the hard questions. Just because she works for me does not mean she lets me off the hook. Pastor Angelo Sanders, we have an incredible relationship. He's a retired lieutenant colonel. He asks me the hard questions. I do not mind asking the hard questions. I also don't mind if people say, well, I disagree with you, because here's what I understand. Great life is bound up in diversity. So you can ask me the hard questions. I do not mind. You can ask me the hard questions. I will not run from them. Let me say one more time and then I'm diving in. Please share this live right now. Just share it. Share the live right now. I want people from our alumni community at Beulah Heights University. I want our current staff and current faculty to watch it. I want alumni. I want the current students, prospective students. I want you to watch it. So please go and share it. Believe me, there's nothing I'm going to say that I can't defend, nor will I be ashamed of. And so I want to ask you to share it. So here's my beginning. How did I get connected to Beulah? Well, I got connected to Beulah in 1996 because I heard Jerry Hutchins preach. After he finished preaching, we went in the back and I met him, and he said, y'all need to go to school. I said, where should we go? At the time, he was an adjunct professor at Beulah Heights University. He said, go to Beulah Heights Bible College. It's Beulah Heights Bible College when I met, BHBC. At the time, Samuel Chan was our president, and Samuel Chan had done something amazing. He had mired himself in churches, black churches, and opened the gateway and the doorway for us to get this education. So I came, filled out the application, I got in. I was instantly excited because Beulah Heights Bible College had a culture of togetherness. This is how I found it. It's not how I left it. but it's how I found it. There was a culture of togetherness. As a matter of fact, 80% of my peers were pastoral colleagues of mine. There were so many pastors showing up to Beulah Heights University because we wanted to be credible witnesses. So when we got there, there was this incredible environment. One thing that I loved about Dr. Chan was Dr. Chan focused on ensuring communication, connection, and collaboration. He'd stick his head in our classroom doors. He'd engage with the instructors. He'd be present with them. He'd talk with them. He valued their opinion, and that translated into a sense of communal and institutional health, that our culture was open and exciting. They were doing innovative things that I saw that I never thought I would see. It was so incredible. I loved it, and so I dug in immediately as a student. I dug in, and I enjoyed my experience. My experience as a student was unmatched. I have heard people talk about their schools, and I join in. I lend my voice to the conversation. When it was Beulah Heights Bible College, it was absolutely amazing. And I know that this is a little bit different, but I had fun at school. We would get into dialogues and conversations with John Nash and Doug Chatham and Chris Horton. And man, those conversations could last, all based on the curriculum. They were taking us through the curriculum. I remember we had one professor, his name was Kelly Joe McMichael. I will never forget. He taught our administration and ministry class. When I tell you, that man knew so much about administration and ministry and how it needed to be leveraged to help, to support, to grow. Oh, it was absolutely amazing. Now, he wasn't an exciting professor. Like, he wasn't going to raise his voice. He wasn't going to paint any straight pictures. But if you were to go back to the text and read it, you'll see he was dead on. Absolutely accurate. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. One that I certainly enjoyed. I took a New Testament class from, at the time, her name was Karen Griffin. And Karen Griffin became one of my mentors. As a matter of fact, she served as my first chair for my dissertation. She was amazing. She taught at Beulah Heights University and ITC. She was one of the reasons I went to ITC. All of this came through the window and the gateway of Beulah Heights University. After I graduated and finished graduate school, our presidency changed. Sam Chan decided he was going to put emphasis on SRC Ministries and his consulting business and his preaching ministry, etc. And then we got a new president. I was familiar with him because that president was our librarian. He helped get financial aid, so on and so forth. He ultimately ended up being our executive vice president. I was there. So instantly, there were two reasons I wanted to come back to Beulah Heights University and to teach and to help. One, because I loved the school it produced me. And two, I knew both presidents. And I was like, you know what? This was a win-win deal. Serving has always been my desire. Leadership has been my result, but serving has been my desire. I love to serve, and I can serve anywhere, doing anything. I don't have to be the leader. I love to serve. So that was always my thing. Serve, serve, serve. Hodges, serve, right? Support is in my DNA. I don't mind supporting any leader. It's one of the reasons why I've had this rise as an individual, because I spend time serving. I lead, but I also serve. I serve as the Bishop of Christian Education for the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship, and I don't mind serving Bishop Walker. There's just a parenthetical note here. I don't know that I've ever met a leader more gifted and graceful than Bishop Joseph Warren Walker III. I am blown away by Bishop Walker. I've learned him and known him and grown with him personally, but serving with him in Full Gospel, I don't know that I've seen another leader. I'm not a Fortune 500 leader. Bishop Walker blows me away. His mind blows me away. His cadence blows me away. I remember one day, this is just going to be my Walker story. I remember one day I was watching his alma mater Vanderbilt play, and I sent him a text message. He responded right back instantly. Now you have to know, Bishop Walker has 35,000 members. He's a veritable who's who in America and in preaching in the world. He's the busiest man I know. He sent a text message right back. And we bounce back and forth as we watch Vanderbilt have a great victory. We bounce back and forth. He is so down to earth. The thing that blows me away, in addition to his leadership and his capacity, is his humility. As much as he has, he could be the most arrogant man in the world, and I promise you he's the most humble man in the world. Bishop Walker is, I don't know, I'm trying to find words for him. He's faithful as a preacher. He's incredible as a leader. But as a person, he's an amazing, amazing gift. And I'll just list a few more people that I think are amazing. But when you support people, when it's in your DNA, no matter how high you go, you'll be there. Leadership has always been where I devoted my time. I devoted my time, my energies, and efforts to leading. So, of course, when I go to Beulah Heights University, I want to be a part of an institution where leadership is valued, respected, and appreciated. And I want to jump in and I want to help to co-steward what happens. It's in my DNA. It's a part of my devotion. I love leading and I love serving. There's some of my colleagues on today who would tell you, when I walked into a room or when I took over a department, I started by asking, how can I serve you? How can I help you? When I got my first assignment at Beulah, I met with everybody on the team and I asked them, how can I support you? Many of which didn't know how to respond because they had never heard a leader come in and not throw down an agenda and say, here's what it's going to be and this is what it's going to be like. It was never that for me. It was always me saying, I really do want to know, how can I join these people and help them carry out the work of God at Beulah Heights University? Because I believed in Beulah. I believed in what we did at Beulah. I believe that religious education was our call, it was our mainstay, and it was what we needed to do. So when I took over a team, when I took over a department, when I became a dean, I asked people, what can I do to help you? So that was all Beulah. That was Beulah, and I loved it. That was Beulah, and it was important. That was Beulah, and it was incredible. When I got to Beulah, it started with excitement. When I got my first job at Beulah, it was excitement. I was excited. I was overjoyed. I hope I did not wear the president out because I was in his office almost every week. Every idea I had, I wanted to share. Yeah, it was that way. And then excitement drove my first couple of years at Beulah. Excitement drove us. Excitement pushed us. Excitement gave us all that we need. Excitement was just amazing. But then when excitement subsides, you look at what you have left. And for me, once it's settled, I had to start asking questions. You'll never have a person that's a real leader that first won't be excited and second won't begin to ask big questions. I started making inquiry. First, within my own life, within my inwardly, I started asking questions. Here's what I saw. Here's what we said. This is the difference. What does it mean? I did not bring it to anybody. There was no gossip. There was no, let me talk to you about this. It was me sitting down, writing these things out. Here's what our mission is. Here's what our vision is. Here are what our core values are. Here's what I see. Here's the difference. How do we reconcile it? When you begin to ask those questions, then there's an issue that will arise. Listen to me very carefully, friends, because this is where we're going to turn the page. Inquiry leads to your search for answers. Answers lead to more critical inquiry. Once the excitement subsides, so I never lost my excitement, but excitement here came to here so that I could ask questions without bias. Well, let me tell you what happens when you're just so excited that you've not put your excitement in equilibrium and in check and balance. What happens is you ignore data. You ignore data. I heard a person who is huge in data. She said this to me. She said, no matter what you think or feel, the data doesn't lie. Oh, that was the gut punch, but I needed it because it made me ask the question, what am I seeing? What's showing? And how do we synthesize the two? That's the challenge, friends. That challenge led me to more critical questions. And the critical questions had to flow through 3 filters. Here's where it gets tough, and I need you to hear me say this. The 3 filters are moral, ethical, legal. When you make inquiry, you get answers, it's going to lead to more critical, cathartic inquiry. When you get that answer, you have to ask 3 questions: moral, legal, ethical. My own moral beliefs have to remain in check. Let me say this is a pause and a parenthetical note on this journey. If you have moral beliefs, don't compromise your moral beliefs for anything, anybody, including a paycheck, because your moral beliefs are your underpinnings for life. And if you lose them, you will become unanchored and you'll float anywhere, anytime with anybody, and a paycheck ain't worth it. I need to be clear when I say this to you. There are people who are morally bankrupt. So they're a shell of themselves. They got money in their bank, but they're hollowed out on the inside because they do not honor their own morals, their personal beliefs, what they believe is right or wrong. And most of the people that I'm talking to, your belief of what's right or wrong is your belief of what's right or wrong based on your experience. You've gone through enough, which is why you had to go through it. You've done enough, which is why you had to do it. You've seen enough, which is why you had to see it. So you can determine, I will not do this. So when you're at an institution, when you're working with a group, you have to make sure you don't lose your moral moorings. Your moral moorings will determine where you will land. I'll give you a quick example. I was praying about something work-related. And as I was praying, it was almost as if the Lord interrupted me and said, why are you asking about this and you have a moral compass? Ay, ay, ay. Oh, that thing got me. The Lord was like, why are you asking about this, Brian? You have a moral compass. What happened when it came in conflict with your moral compass? Why didn't you address it? Why didn't you raise the red flag? Why didn't you do something about it? But now you want to pray about something you knew was morally inaccurate. Ooh-wee. That was the one. And I couldn't do anything other than say, I knew that went against what I believed. Why didn't I say anything? Let me tell you the danger, friends. The danger is be very careful that you don't ever get in a situation where you are so connected with people that you let your social connection break down your moral mooring. Moral, ethical. What's the standard? What's the norm? What's right? Professional, principles, guidelines, behaviors. What's ethical? And is this a standard that's necessary? I want to argue for a minute. That when you have the filter of what's moral, what's ethical, and what's legal, be very careful that you don't blur the lines. unethical treatment of others. Unethical treatment of others that you are being pushed to treat unethically. At the end of the day, for me, and I want to say this very clearly, at the end of the day, for me, I still have God holding me accountable. God is holding me accountable for what I let my bosses push me to do. God's holding me accountable for what I see them doing that may not be moral, ethical, or sometimes legal, and I still go along with it. There's this popular colloquial expressionism, they drank the Kool-Aid. We keep hearing people say that, but let me just kind of say this. That if you drink the Kool-Aid, kind of got that from Jim Jones and the Jonestown Massacre. If you drink the Kool-Aid, you become like the poison in the institution. There are two P's in every institution you need to choose. One is purity and one is poison. You'll have to choose between purity and poison. And if you drink the Kool-Aid, you've made your choice. You have drank the poison, and so you become poisonous like the other people that are in the institution. You have to choose purity. You have to choose purity because purity most aligns itself with your moral and ethical connections. You have to choose purity. I'm not saying you have to be the one holding the flag, always being the voice of dissent, but prophetically, for those of you that are Christians, prophetically, we are called to speak truth to power. And we don't speak to truth to power because we're too busy amalgamating ourselves in a sick culture. And if you do that, friends, you become poisonous, ruinous, imbrued, stained, tainted like everybody else. Some years ago in Detroit, there was this incredible push for green space. And so the city of Detroit started putting trees everywhere. And they always had these trees braced with 2 to 4 anchors and boards and wires, right? They always had 2 to 4 of them. That made sure that the tree grew up straight. When I go back to Detroit now, I generally drive through neighborhoods, and those trees that they planted when I was in the 4th grade are still standing because they braced them right. Institutions that will remain because they've been braced right. What happens when they've not been braced right? Because we spend our time rubber stamping everything we see. Now, let me just tell you again, because in the next couple of these lessons, I'm going to tell you how you function in an institution, because my book that I'm hoping to have done in the next little bit, my book is called Being a Healthy Leader in an Unhealthy Environment. Being a healthy leader in an unhealthy environment. I'm going to make sure you get that book. I'm going to have that book, I promise. I've got several of my accountability partners who are standing on my neck, standing on my head saying, you better have that book done. It's a devotional. It's a 52-week devotional aimed at leaders to share how you can be a healthy leader in an unhealthy culture. And you do know you can be. Don't believe me? Ask Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Their Babylonian names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And ask Daniel. Those 4 can testify that in Babylon you can still be a healthy leader. So here's what I had to do. After I asked, was it ethical? Was it moral? Was it ethical? I had to ask, was it legal? And quite honestly, there were moments when the line of legalities can be flirted with. When the standard, if this is what the catalog says, if this is what the standard says, and we don't hold to the standard, we become we become an institution that no longer holds up the standard of good and rightness. Not to mention, we're a Christian institution. A Christian institution is Christian institution because we live, think, act, and function in biblical ways. If that's not the standard in the story, you got to ask yourself about moral and ethical underpinnings and why. Oh, Lord. When why you are still hanging around a place that's eating you up on the inside. So what do you do? That's the next thing I need to raise. So what do you do when your inquiry leads to responses that conflict with your moral, your ethics, and what is legal? Here's what you do. You begin to create a strategy to improve it. Some years ago, I was in Wittenberg, Germany, and I stood at the city cathedral where Martin Luther preached, and I looked at the 95 Theses. That's right, 95 Theses. And I realized something. Martin Luther was trying to reform the Catholic Church, not split it. Of course, you know there are two streams of Christianity in the world right now, Catholicism and Protestantism. Martin Luther wasn't attempting to create Protestantism. He was attempting to reform the Catholic Church. But what happens when you attempt to reform an institution that don't want to be reformed? You attempt to help leaders that don't want your help. Jesus said, O Jerusalem, you who stones the prophets and kills the ones who are sent to you. How often have I wanted to gather you together as a hen does her chicks, but you would not let me. Then he said, see to it that your house is left in ruin. I remember reading the quote. I can't remember the source of the quote now. But it said, something to the effect of, if you keep ignoring the people that are talking to you, they'll soon have nothing to say to you. And that's the reality. The reality is you can't have people on your team that you don't listen to. That if you don't agree with them as a leader, you can say to them, thank you for sharing. I appreciate you. I never shall forget, no matter what we did at graduate school, Anne Streety Wimberly would say, thank you for sharing. She was one of the best Christian education sages I have ever met. She and Jonathan Jackson birthed in me this desire for Christian education. You'd sit in her class and she would say, thank you for sharing. Now, you could be as absolutely nutty with your response. She'd say, thank you for sharing. Jonathan Jackson would always ask us, take me deeper. Help me with your response. I loved it because they never allowed what you said to be the only thing. I'm telling you, friends, that when you have been in a culture that ignores you, and ignores what you have to say, because we're all there. My story's a little bit different, quite honestly. I've said it, but let me share it again. My story is a little bit different. And my story is a little bit different because I'm an alum. LOVE exclamation point, Beulah Heights University. I absolutely love, LOVE exclamation point, Beulah Heights University. Let me tell you how much I love Beulah Heights University. And I'll only ever share this one time and I'm done sharing it. My first couple of years or so, I gave 100% of my salary back to the school. Back then, they would give you a paper check. And I went right to it. At the time, I think Maxine Hunt was our comptroller. I said, Maxine, I told you I was donating all my money back to the school. Don't even send me a check. So there were a few times I had to take my check back to the school and give it. I was dug in. I was dug into Beulah Heights University. Dug in. And so I'm going to do everything I can to help. Because I'm a product of BHU. There are a number of my colleagues that don't understand why this is so passionately deep for me. It produced me. It produced me. So I was always spending my time making sure that I could do whatever I could. If there was an initiative, Beulah Heights wanted to buy some park benches or something like that. I was the first one to lift my hands, and me and Gatherman the Champions gave to do it. I think Sean Adams was a vice president at the time, and he had the initiative. And I just said, okay. He came by my class and said, Hodge, can you? And I said, absolutely. There's nobody in Beulah Heights University that I've ever worked with that can't say Dr. Hodges was the first one to lift his hand up and say, I'll help. And the reason I'll help is because Beulah produced me. I was bought in. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid, though, but I was bought in. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid, but I was locked in. I was locked in. You can't take a person who's a free thinker and put them in any environment and make them check their brain at the door. I remember Dr. Angelita Howard, who's a dear friend and a colleague. I remember her saying to me about leadership. And she wrote a phenomenal book about leadership. You better go on Amazon and get it. Angelita Howard. Go on Amazon and get her book. I remember Angelina Howard saying to me, Hodges, whatever you do, be a faithful leader. She was actually in a conference with me talking about me. And she said this. She was coaching me and she was guiding me. She said, here's some assessment information from students that have been in your class. I said, okay, here, gotcha. And then a few semesters later, she said, oh, you took the advice. She said, because I'm hearing from students about you differently. She made it clear to me that if you want to be a strong leader, you have to be willing to listen, not take it personal, don't ignore it, and change. Can I tell you that this is one of the greatest pieces of advice I've ever been given as a leader? I learned how not to take it personal. If you're a gathering of champions and you have a critique for me, I'm taking it. If you're in Rehoboth Fellowship International and you have a critique for me, I'm taking it. Yeah, I'm taking it. I will have to determine what I'll do with it, but I'm not going to dismiss it, and I'm certainly not going to talk about you behind your back. Here's where it gets rocky. A culture is set by its leader. The culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. This worst behavior that a leader is willing to tolerate. Gruenart and Whitaker. The culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate, including their own. Leaders who cannot be checked. Leaders who have cabinets that are rubber stamps. Leaders who have boards that are rubber stamps, that never check them, that never put them to the task or test, that never ask the questions. Leaders who are left to their own devices destroy institutions. I have an open door policy at my church and in our Reformation. You can ask me anything. Ask me the hard questions. And there have been times I said, I don't know. My daughter took me to task. Oh, this was about 3 years ago. She was serving in Kuwait or somewhere overseas. We were doing FaceTime, and she took me to task. And I said, Brianna, I do not know. She said, you, Dad, you don't know? I said, I know, Bree. You and Junior and Aaron think I have all the answers. I don't. I said, I don't know. She said, Dad, I'll call you next week. When I call you, I want to know. She held me to the line. I do not mind good people that I know love me, have my heart, have my best interests out at heart, have the institution's best interests at heart. I have no problem with you asking any questions. And the one thing I will do, I say this to all of my friends, I won't lie to you, I won't betray you, and I'll never hurt you intentionally. That's why I have conversations, and I still do it kneecap to kneecap. That's why I do it. Kneecap to kneecap. There's no rubber stamp boards. There's no rubber stamp people. You got a cabinet that rubber stamps everything you say. You have a board that rubber stamps everything you say. You're killing the institution because the people that serve it are never brought close enough for them to be able to understand. I'm valued for my opinion. Urban Meyer is a legendary coach and have had a number of victories. He said, leaders create culture. Culture drives behavior. When you want to know why an institution does what it does, look at the leader. I'm putting myself on the line. I ain't pointing to nobody else. I'm putting myself on the line. If you want to know why Gathering of Champions is like Gathering of Champions, look at its leader. Look at its senior pastor for the last 30 years. Some days I hold my head up high. Other days I say, let me get myself together. Some days I hold my head up high, and other days I say, Hodge, you can do better. I am the worst critic of anybody in Gathering of Champions. If you have anything to say about me, let me tell you, I've said worse about myself because I'm always driving myself to be better. What happens when you sit there and there's no strategy for self-improvement? What happens when you are at the top and we don't see an improvement in anything you're doing, and then we see nothing but this culture of sordid behaviors that reek from people that work with you and for you as they treat those who work there like nothing. I have to take my word for it. This is my lens. This is my lens. That's why I made sure that current and former colleagues can sign on. I want you to sign on, and I want you to disagree with me so that we might not have argument, but we might have dialogue. Because I may have seen something you didn't see. I may know something you don't know. So what is or was the culture? October 1st was my last day. What was the culture of Beulah when I left? This is my lens. This is Brian Hodges' critique of Beulah Heights University and when I left. It's a lesson for you. It's a light for you. Beulah Heights culture was a culture of disengaged leadership. Disengaged leadership. That there was not a sense of unity between the executive leadership and the institutional leadership, instructional and staff. There was not a connection. It was like this. How do you make decisions about what goes on in class and you're not an academic? How do you make decisions about what goes on in curriculum and you don't know curriculum? You've never studied it. You've never written it. You've never been a part of any discussions about it, and yet you can. I'll give you a quick example. Beulah Heights University is an open enrollment institution without a system of open enrollment. In other words, you can join Beulah Heights having no collegiate experience at all whatsoever, having no educational advanced prowess at all whatsoever, and there's not one thing we give you to make you ready for collegiate life. Not one thing. Not one. You can't have an open enrollment institution and there's not a system for open enrollment. These are things that we said. There's no assessment of the people that come in. That even though we have some small things in place like the writing sample, the goal is to get a student in. Not to look and say this person will need some remedial support. They'll need some remedial support. Well, we don't want to do remedial support because we don't want students to feel bad. Students feel bad when they get in classes and can't keep up. And they can't keep up because they don't have the support that they need. Time after time, institutions who are going to have open enrollment will absolutely need to have a system for open enrollment. You have to push for it. Learning support is just that. Learning support. We're going to help get you up to speed. We're going to help put you in a space where you can be effective. We're going to help put you in a place where you can be competent. We're going to help put you in a place where you can make sure that you are headed in the right direction. Listen, when I stood on the stage at New Birth for many years, shaking hands and supporting, I was proud. Several of my students ended up being valedictorians. And a couple of them in their speeches kind of cracked at me, and I didn't mind that because I had one goal in mind, to make sure you were proficient. And they were. Those valedictorians were some of the absolute brightest and best. I could call their names right now. I was blown away by some of the work that they produced. But then I was disappointed that there were some we couldn't reach because we didn't set them up. Education is like muscle memory. You got to set us up. Give us the right practices. Give us the right things. And there were many, many people who worked in my department, who worked for me and under me, that saw it and wanted it. But when you have disengaged leadership, they don't listen to what's happening in the classroom. And the reason they don't listen to what's happening in the classroom is because they've never been in one. When you've never led instruction, when you've never led assessment, when you've never led curriculum development, when you've never led and been a part of it, it's hard for you to hear and see. So you sit in this tower and you make decisions that you don't have enough information to make. You got to go to the subject matter experts. You got to go to the people that are in the field and do it. Do it. We have a custodial engineer at BHU. He's still there. He's one of the most incredible people you will ever meet. You'll see him doting around. He doesn't do a lot of talking, but you'll see him. When he comes in, I don't talk to him about air conditioning. I don't know anything about it. I don't talk to him about plumbing. I don't know anything about it. I don't talk to him about pulling wire. I don't know anything about it. I don't talk to him about laying carpet. No, I don't talk to him about those things. I have no rebuttal to give him. I have no insight to give him because I don't know those things. And the things that I do know about those things, I know because I've done them. He's an expert at it. Why don't we let institutional experts handle it? And I'm saying this from the top down because you'll even have an academic dean. You'll have a vice president of academics that's not clear on what we do in the classroom. Opening a book and reading what's in the book is not teaching. Looking at a syllabus and saying, oh yeah, well that's what we're going to do. That's not it. We're doing what we do, and while doing what we do, we're missing good opportunities to impact lives. But it'll never happen if the leadership is disengaged. Here's the second thing: dismantled professional relationships. If you're in an institution where water cooler conversations break your integrity, gossip, innuendos, accusations that have never been confirmed, when that's how you lead, you will dismantle professional relationships. When you sit in a room with 6 other people and you just talk about everybody else and you never bring those people in the room that you're talking about, that is unethical. When you say, oh, I'm going to go over this department leader's head and I'm going to remove somebody that works for them, and you never tell the department leader, that is unethical. When you make sure that your rule is with such an iron fist that you shatter things and then point to other people and say, well, they're over that. But they couldn't make a determination because it's what you want. You dismantle professional relationships. And there are people who extended their professional relationships by trusting. And when that trust is gone, what do you have left? I've always said this: if you don't earn my trust, you can't have my truth or my transparency. Let me say it again. If you haven't earned my trust, you can't have my truth or my transparency. Let me pause again to say, this is what Brian Hodges saw through the lens of leadership with which I look. Anybody else may have a different take on this, and it's okay. Because I'm not being libelous or defamatory. I'm not being disconcerting or disrespectful. I'm simply saying this is what I saw serving as a senior, a middle leader, a mid leader. I was a department chair and I was a dean. So I've seen these things up close and personal. There's another thing. An institution will flounder when you have disrespect for diversity. My opinion is my opinion. Don't disregard me because I think differently. I think differently. I'm a different person. Don't dismantle, don't disregard, don't disrespect diversity because you disagree. We all think differently. Someone asked me, how you doing? I said, if I were any better, it'd be 2 of me. And they kind of chuckled, and so did I. Well, let me just say, if it were 2 of me, that'd be a problem. Because I have trouble with 1 of me. Diversity is the currency of healthy institutions. What happens when diversity is suffocated? Because really, there's only one voice that needs to speak. That's not an institution, that's a camp. Damaged communication. That's another one. Damaged communication means you hear it after the fact. Instead of being brought into conversations, before it's made public, being made aware. The damaged communications mean this, that a good portion of what was said, done, and decided happened without you. You find it out when it's being announced. How disappointing is it when you're joined to co-steward and the way stewardship works is they always leave you in the dark. How does it work when you put a name on a schedule and that name is taken off and they say, well, they'll tell you about it? You're kidding. My role as chair is to write a schedule. I put trusted faculty on that schedule. That name was removed and nobody has said a word. Well, they'll tell you about it. Is there anything you can tell me about it? No, I'll just let them tell you about it. When you have damaged communication, there's something that arises. A culture of secrecy, scheming, plotting. When you hear me say this is not let me punch them. This is let me uncover, based on my experience, what happened. Damaged communication. We've had people who have left and we weren't even given a message. Let's say congratulations to them. They're no longer with us. Let's celebrate them for the time they spent with us. We didn't even know they were gone. They were removed. Damaged communication means we spend a good portion of our time making decisions that we try to hide until we can no longer hide them. That's not good. Communication should be open. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure that if this person is doing this and we see this person, that we say this person is doing this. Yeah, they're doing it. Or they no longer do it. Let's wish them well. Congratulate them when you see them. Nada. Nothing. That's tough. Here's the last thing, and then I'll kind of wrap this up for today. Deafening critic. Deafening. Bust your eardrum. Credit. That you blow the trumpet on everything you do so loud that it almost seems like we're in a space where a narcissist gets to keep saying all me, thank me, thank me, thank me. Nothing happens individually. All of us made it happen. All of us worked to make it happen. All of us stood there and worked. But when it comes to it, we got people who love to take credit. I did it. It was me. I made sure it got done. I said to a person some time ago, if you do well, they'll take the credit. If you don't do well, they'll blame you publicly. And it happened. If you do well, we did it. Our team did it. Under our leadership, did it. If not, I can't believe you didn't do good. I'm so disappointed. You just couldn't lead that department. You couldn't lead that space. You couldn't lead that document. You couldn't lead that area of commitment. I can tell you this, friends, that one of the things I'm committed to with leadership is making sure I get rid of the word I. Gathering of Champions has had a number of milestones. We did it. Gathering of Champions have had some setbacks. I started with me. When it comes to the setbacks, I start with me. Me, Dr. Brian Keith Hodges, Bishop Brian Keith Hodges. I start with me. When it comes to the glory, I start with we. It's the only way real leaders lead. So, next Monday, I'll talk about another iteration of this. You'll see it, I'll post it. Let me tell you a few things that I want to address. I want to address losing your identity for your job. I want to address that. Losing who you are as a person, as a professional, because you want a paycheck. Second thing I want to deal with is how do you remain healthy in a culture of nepotism? You remain healthy in a culture of nepotism. How do you remain healthy in a culture where we hire our friends? How do you stay healthy in a culture where you're given a label but no training? You're given a title, but you're not given any resources. How do you stay healthy in a culture where there are these secret metrics? Oh, this department ain't growing. Well, what's the metric? How many did you want it to grow by? What was the number? There's not one written document that says, here's what we shared with this person about how we wanted this to grow. What do you do when we lose our Christian identity for the sake of another student? A student who comes from a different faith, but because we want to make sure that we put money in our pockets and coffers. What do you do? These are real issues that go beyond the borders of any scope of what I've done and where I've served. I don't care what business you're in, manufacturing, athletics, education, religion, you name it. Everything I'm saying and sharing works there. You'll see it, and you'll see it on my next ones. Listen, here's what I want to ask you to do. Just share it. Share it. Share it. Share it. Share it. Again, I don't want you to feel like I don't want the colleagues to know. Let my colleagues know. I want them to hear me say it because you hear my side of the story. Share it with them. Share it. I want you to not only share it, but when people say, I disagree, I will open the gateway to have a forum that is moderated, and we can sit and we can talk about it publicly. I just want a request. If we're going to meet, let's meet in public space. Let's meet so people can hear. Let's meet so people can see. Let's put it on a live event. If you want to say that Hodges is wrong, I don't mind. Let's just meet in public space. You bring your information, I'll bring mine, and we'll have the conversation. I'm thankful that you heard. I'm thankful that you listened. Now, I have a subscribers page. As soon as I end this, I'm going to go to my subscribers page, and I'm going to give some more details in my subscribers page. I'm going to give some more details because I want people to hear me say it, right? This is my take on it. It may be categorically different from the leaders. I'm not accusing them of anything. I'm not blaming them for anything. I'm telling you based on my lens, here's what I experienced. So, I'll go to my subscribers page in just a minute. I want you to know my heart is open. Thank you. If you don't subscribe to me, subscribe to Dr. Brian Keith Hodges on Facebook. Subscribe, Bishop Brian Keith Hodges on Facebook. I would love to have you, and I'd love to share with you some more things. Thank you, everybody, for checking it out. I appreciate you. God bless you. Remember to lead well.